So if we're talking about danger, the next one then, obviously not everyone listening to this is going to put themselves in situations in which they, climbing Everest or they're in firefights like you've been. But do you think it's important that everyone finds just a little way to expose themselves to something that triggers just a little bit of fear in them every now and again?
Yeah, sure. And that danger doesn't necessarily mean those dangerous things where you're at risk of dying. I mean, it could be something as simple as getting in the bin in the morning. Has the same that feeling, that apprehension that you have when you wake up in the morning is a similar kind of system that the danger system brings out in your body. And it could just be like putting yourself in those situations that you almost fear, like what we were talking about before. It could be something like simple as just going out for a run when you don't run, because a lot of people probably get anxiety and are worried about that kind of stuff. And then it's just about building on that, right? Like, the more stressful situations or the more difficult situations you can put yourself in, the more you're going to come along as a human being, and kind of the better you're going to develop yourself and the stronger you're going to be, right?
People are trying to change the world before they make their bed. And is that, is it a case of, people always have these big picture things. Is it a case of, like you said, just doing the little things, get the small wins first, and then you'll build on that momentum?
It's exactly that, mate. And then without being all cliche and the rest of it, you can't build a house without the foundations. So build your foundation, start with the basic stuff, and it's the routine stuff. And then build up, and work towards, call it your goal if you want, which is the bigger picture thing. The stuff that's going to take you a long time. For instance, writing the book, another book, so through the day, I'll sort of do all the stuff that I really need to do that is necessary around me, so I can sit and concentrate on the main thing, which may be that, or maybe whatever it is, whatever that task is, drawing up a plan for a securities, project or whatever it is. So yeah, but you've definitely got to build foundations, building blocks, and work your way up. You can't just go straight to the top, and because you get frustrated things, and then all the stuff below you is not supporting you. So that's on your mind, and then it's diluting your sort of focus, if you like.
Yeah. Going back. Sorry, carry on.
Sorry, mate. It is. It's very, very true. You've just got to do the bait, and it's repetitive. Making the fucking bed every day is repetitive. In the SAS, let me tell you. I mean, it's an extension of your right arm as a weapon. You have to be 100%, efficient with that weapon. And we will, if we haven't used it for a week, we'll go back to basics. Stripping and assembling it, cleaning it, because we do, because you have to. We're never too good to forget the basics. So we always got. It's the same as most of the day now is about technology, okay, and satellites and GPS and all the rest of it. Whenever we go to the jungle, we go back to map and compass and pacing every single time. And that is it. So jumping ahead, so I jump back again. So it's back to foundations, do what's necessary, and then aim into the zone that you don't really know a lot of, where you're going to put some time and effort into.
How much do we know about earning the respect of others? Is there a science to earning the respect of others?
That's a question I'm unable to answer definitively. What I would say is there are theories on it. There are certainly experiences that many leaders have been through where you succeeded or failed, usually somewhere in the middle, but at winning the respect. And quite often, it's very different. I mean, one time you'll do this and you'll win the respect of everyone because the context of the moment, their mindset. And the next minute you'll try that same thing and it will fall completely on its face. So I think the best you can do is, for the long term, sort of generally, is think what you want in a leader. You want somebody who is honest, that you trust, You want somebody who's competent, that can deliver. You want somebody who respects you and gives you a role that makes you feel good about it. And that's, you could argue that those are core and they're always true. I would argue they're usually true. And so you kind of can't go wrong if you start with that. But then you've got to be very empathetic. And what I mean by that is not sympathetic, I mean empathetic. You've got to be able to, in an organization, turn the lens around and see things through other people's eyes. How will they feel in that moment? What do they need? What do they want? And it's hard because you're not them. You don't have their life experience. You don't have their position, but you can try to say, okay, what's really happening here? And in those moments, you can say, okay, what do I need or want from the leader now? And that's about the best you can do. That's why people who have a natural sense of empathy, but also people who are observant, people who listen, they tend to do better because they tend to have a sense of, okay, what's happening here? You know, when I commanded military units, it was very interesting. The way you treated the same group of people on Monday morning and Friday afternoon is very different. How you treat them in a moment of crisis and how you treat them sometimes else is very different. How you interact with them is very different. You don't want to be someone who's doesn't have a baseline consistency that they can rely on, but you do want to be able to wax and wane with the sea as it goes up and down in their modes.
Very open about the accident that ended your career. And for those who are unaware, before we get into some questions, could you just sort of highlight that accident in any detail you can to our audience?
Yeah, of course, Dan. Yeah. So obviously I'm now in the Special Boat Service, and I joined at a time, it was on the height of war of terror. You know, we were, probably the busiest time in SF history. You know, you had Iraq, Afghanistan, you had stuff on the east coast of Africa. You know, it was a busy period. And I always say I was like living and breathing, what these kids play on Call of Duty. That was our day job. And so for me, I was at the top, and also I was working with like-minded individuals, guys that were confident in their abilities. And it was healthy competition as well, always to push yourself to try and be better than them, and they would do the opposite. So for me, I was happy. I was in a happy place, and we were just about to go to Afghan on another tour 2 weeks before on a pre-deployment training in Oman. And we were doing a hey-ho jump, which is high altitude, high opening jump. So it's a method of insertion. You exit the aircraft at 15,000 feet, and it's a static light. And unlike free fall, you're still attached to the aircraft. As you exit the aircraft, the parachute will then go tight and open above your head. And you then travel up to 50 kilometers or 30 minutes airtime to the target area. So this was about the fourth jump of the day, and we've done these hundreds of times, and it was the fourth jump of the day, exit the aircraft, normal procedure. But this time my leg, it was a freak accident, my leg got caught in the line above my head. So I'm trying to pull my leg out in time before the parachute opens, and then obviously causes more damage. I couldn't clear it in time. The parachute opened, pulled my leg over my head and to the right. And thankfully my foot got released from the line and my leg wasn't taken completely off. Otherwise we wouldn't be having this conversation. At 15,000 feet, you're also on the limits of oxygen. So I was vomiting because of the pain. I knew there was a problem straight away, and I was also drifting in and out of consciousness, but no one else in the team was aware there was a situation. So my first aim was to stay with the stick, and obviously in the back of my mind was wondering, how the hell am I going to land this? Because I've only got one leg, and if I mess that up, it could damage the other leg completely as well. So I got to the DZ. I assessed the approach of the other parachutists with the winds, and I did a perfect landing. I actually landed one-legged, but unfortunately the damage sustained, shortened my career. I tore my ACL, my MCL, my lateral meniscus within my knee, my hamstring, my calf, and my quad. So all the supporting muscles as well. So I had an MRI scan the next day, and then waited for an Aeromed flight. But yeah, you've gone from being at the top of your game, you know, loving life, to all of a sudden reinventing yourself. What now? You know, 16 years in the military. You know, I grew up in a military family. All I knew was that military environment, and it was almost, yeah, thank you for your time. You know, you now need to leave, and that was difficult for me. You know, in reflection, it's what's known as an identity crisis. Very, you know, common within guys and girls in the military, professional sports athletes, but there's also anyone who works in a close-knit team or environment, you know, for a period of time, and then you have to change that environment. It's called very tribal. You know, you leave one tribe and how do I, what other tribe am I now going to go into? And again, you know, obviously I was confident with the skill sets that I learned in the military, the transferable skills. But without sounding like Liam Neeson, the natural progression for people from our background is the private security sector. But yeah, that was, you know, at the time I was also under pressure. My wife was 8 months pregnant. Is like, you know, not only have you just left everything that you ever known behind, how am I now going to support my family, my young family?
A thing that I really admire about yourself, and you know, those who are, you know, from a similar career to yourself, you all seem to be what I call comfortable in chaos. And going back to your accident we just talked about, you know, in a moment of pure chaos that would send 99.999% of people into panic and shock and complete mental shutdown, how did you manage to keep level-headed, keep focus, and keep the eye on what needed to be done to get you to safety? Because, you know, like I said, for so many people, they would have panicked and that would have been that.
Yeah, I think, you know, the great thing about the military, you know, we rehearse, we train. You know, you can't train for every scenario, but you know, so when situations like that happen, whether it's parachuting, whether it's underwater, you know, the first thing to do, they always say, is don't panic. It's very easy to say that, but you know what I mean? But again, that whole phrase that you can't be experienced without experiences that I've had before, which helped me in that scenario. You know, I've had 2 malfunctions before parachuting. Before that one, at least I had a canopy above my head. So actually I wasn't that worried. It's when you look up and there is no canopy, that's when you need to worry. And I've been in that scenario before. So for me, it was like, well, quickly assess the situation. That's what we're quite good at, is quickly reading the situation and making a decision. So obviously, yes, my leg's still there, so that's fine. It hasn't been ripped up. I have a canopy. I just need to now land it. So, you know, you sort of control those things. You can't control the uncontrollable. And people who try to do that or get fearful of that, you know what I mean? So you just deal with what's in front of you.
The unconscious discontent that we all, you know, go through, and the prevention of that being things like risk-taking, losing fear, avoiding comfort zones. How dangerous is this unconscious discontent then?
Well, I mean, it's extremely, you know, it's it's the framework of our very life. So, you know, it's that framework that controls our destiny, controls our life. So one thing I'll say about this book, right, and this is a lot of people in the personal development world, in the sort of, when it comes to the corporate stuff, and I do a fair bit of corporate stuff, people ask, have you got goals, right? And I'm probably jumping ahead of here, but I think it's really important. Have you got goals? And some people say, no, I haven't got goals. And some people say, yes, I have got goals. The fact is, everyone has goals, whether they like it or not, okay? And this comes back down to our wiring again, you know, our early sort of primal wiring. You are driven towards what your dominant thoughts focus on. So whether you like it or not, you have a goal. We're goal driven, okay? And basically, unless you choose what you want to receive, you'll probably end up with something that you don't want to receive that's based on your dominant thoughts. So really, you know, it's that kind. When you start to understand yourself that way, I mean, when people say, you know, to get a better perspective of this, if you want to understand how you think, let's do it the other way around. Look at your life. That's exactly how you think. You know, if your life's great, then obviously you think great. You know, if your life isn't so good and there's stuff you want to change, that's just down to the way you think. You know, we create our own destiny through the way we think. And people find it hard to understand that. They think life's laid out for them. They've been given the short straw. It's a load of absolute bollocks. You know, we control our destiny. And once people understand how powerful the mind is and how we can control our destiny, you know, as long as we do it in the correct manner. But if we don't, that's how subconscious thinking, how dangerous it can be. You know, so it's about being awake. It's about being aware. It's about being conscious. You know, and unless you're any one of those three, you're basically on a treadmill going nowhere.
I think it evokes feelings of that Bob Proctor quote. If you think it in your mind, you'll hold it in your hand. And I think that's relevant in all areas of life. I mean, there's that thing where they say if you look at your partner, they're almost a reflection of yourself, of your thoughts, of what you think of yourself. And that can be applied to anything, your job and other areas of your life. And
so if you were to say, give some advice to perhaps a young person, maybe 17, 18, and you were to sort of offer some advice into perhaps, you know, if someone's feeling lost or they're looking to turn their life around, or perhaps maybe they haven't found anyone that believes in them because the support network is huge, what would you what advice would you offer?
Yeah, that's really thoughtful. I would say first is look ahead and decide who you'd like to be. And when I say who you'd like to be, in my class at Yale, sometimes we make them write their obituary. And we say, what would you like it to say in your obituary about you? Not just your accomplishments, but what do people say about you? And if you back plan, you say, okay, I want to be someone who is trusted. I want to be someone who gave to others, or I want to be whatever it is you want to be. I'd say start with that, because much of what you do before that will either give you the opportunity to get there or not. Then I would go back and say, my son is funny. He looked at me, he was in college and he was doing only okay. And he goes, nobody knows what your college grades were. Nobody cares. And it's a fair point. There are certain things that measure-wise don't matter. And so, but people do care what kind of person you are. And so I would tell a young person, think about that. And some of it's very serious, because there are some things, if you make mistakes as a young person, are hard to correct. If you make mistakes of character, if you treat people poorly, if you develop that kind of relationship or that kind of reputation, those are hard to change. And those are more important than your grades in physics.
When you personally were in vulnerable or high pressure of, you know, dangerous situations, I imagine, and I asked Jay the same question. So examples where you may be in a firefight, or you may be under extreme pressure. How do you maintain that level of focus and skill set when the instinct of a human being is to panic? Is it a case of, you know, relying on the skill set you built and just going on autopilot?
There's a bit of that. I'll be honest, and I think every soldier will tell you the same, no matter who you are. When you've got a situation in front of you that it's out of your control, which most 99% of them are, because you don't know what's going to happen, you don't know, you know, what you're really going to hit. You know you're in danger. You know the people around you are in danger. You know it's not a great place to be. You've got to make decisions. There's an element of fear there, even with us. You know, you might look stony faced in the great lead and getting stuck into it, but in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I could get this wrong, and I don't know if I am, but I've got to make a decision. And you kind of, what I have done is just how I keep that focus and mentality is literally take a deep breath, clear my head, forget about the noises, forget about the panic around me, look what I see in front of me, look what I need to do, and start to make decisions, what I believe are right. And you'll only know if they're right when you get to the other end of it. most of the time they are right. And, well, I've been very fortunate they were right. But so that's what I do. Sort of steady your mind, steady your breathing, and just go forward. Think about what you've got to do, and keep looking at what you've got and look at options. What if this happens now? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? I'm going to keep them safe. I'm going to keep me safe. And it's happening very, very fast. And it happens automatically. Now that comes with lessons learned in the past. That, you know, the lessons from the old man, what he said to me, the seeing Benny getting killed, blah blah blah. Whatever it is, there's an element of everything. It all kicks in at that time, and you use that, and you know, you just sort of keep focus, keep clarity, and try to make good decisions. And that's all you do. You know, steady your breathing, steady yourself, don't get caught up in a panic, take a breath, think, and then, you know, adapt and do what you need to do. It's staying calm yourself, breathing, calm down. You can't change it, you're there, do something about it. Don't go into panic. That's it. I mean, I hope that answers it for you. But yeah, it's calm yourself down. Get a grip of your breathing. Get a grip of your state of mind. Keep focused, and then look with clarity and start making decisions. Start doing things.
Talk about drains and radiators, and I think it's important to surround yourself with the radiators. So while we're on that, do you want to explain that concept, or the difference between a drain and a radiator is?
Yeah, but then I think what you find about like meeting these people, right, is they're just people just like you, and they're probably exactly the same. They're probably a little bit apprehensive about, like, oh, I wonder what he's going to question, like what his questions are going to be, what he's going to ask me, like how I'll be perceived by like a UK like viewer base. Like I always find, like, especially with the nervous apprehension, even like speaking to brands, it's like there's always a person behind that brand, and that person's got a face. He goes to the toilet in the morning, he drinks coffee, and like we're all just the same, right? And we all just get like nerves and apprehension before doing everything. Like, no, like, you know, I've not met someone that doesn't get some sort of nerves and apprehension. If they don't, they're generally a psychopath.
Yeah. So
drains and radiators.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Like I've always just kind of said it, drains and radiators, and you're either kind of one or the other, right? And like we go through this life, and you meet those drains, and I don't know, until you put a label on it, you don't actually know that they're a drain, right? But you feel it like suck the energy out of you. They're generally like negative people. They're always making excuses for why they've not done this or why they weren't able to complete this. And you never really understand that until you put that drains and radiators label on them. And then you've got the radiators, right? It's like when you're around them, they make you feel good. They give you energy. You can bounce off them, right? And you just feel energy when you're around a radiator. And they're positive people and good people to be around. And I've just found in my life, it's like, I don't know, you either get one or the other, right? You don't really get people that are not, or like sitting between them. It's either people are either a drain or a radiator. And yeah, like I think I say in the book, it's like just my whole thing in life is just surround myself with as many radiators as possible, and just get away from the drains.
No, absolutely, man. I mean, I worked with a real drain once, and like no matter what you said to him, it was like you could, you know, you tell him that you've done this thing and he's done it better, or you know, you say that you've got this, you know, you've passed this course, you've done this opportunity, he did it 5 years ago. Yeah, or everything you do just sucks the life out of you. And so since then, I think I've been quite ruthless with like cutting people out of who you let into your inner circle. And people might think that's mean, or you know, they might take it personal, but it doesn't really have to be a personal thing. Sometimes you just got to be ruthless and look out for number one, because I think at the end of the day, no one else is going to look out for you, really.
Nah, and like as much as it's cliche, right? Life's so short, right? Like it's so short. I saw, I don't know, like I saw some kid get knocked off his bike the other day around here, and it was just like that kind of stuff just hits home. That it's like he went out that day, jumped on his motorbike, took a corner on that roundabout, and Like, who knows what happened to him? He looked in a pretty bad way. But it's like that could just happen, right? And it's like you've wasted all this time just not cutting yourself away from those drains. And like over time, that's like compound interest with drains, right? Yeah. They have an effect on you, and they have an effect on your overall mood and your overall view on the world. And yeah, I'm exactly the same. Ruthless with cutting those people out and just meeting more radiators.
Yeah, you gotta be, man. I want to pick up on something, a word you mentioned briefly there was purpose. And I think in the book, you talk about the importance of things like purpose, meaning, giving. And one of the examples you give is that Thailand skin trade and you know, the freeing of the young people. And what did that do for you personally? And even deeper than that, is helping people important and at the core of your human nature?
Yeah, that was phenomenal. What that gave to me was nothing I ever planned or nothing I ever expected. But you know, I'd been I was like we talked about previously. I was looking for that external something that would make me happy. Of course, oh yeah, joining the special forces, it's everyone's dream. It's my dream. You know, to be the elite of the elite. That looks great. You know, that's all. You know, the desire for that is so ego based. You know, that when you get there, for me, I wasn't, you know, people look at me and say, how can you not be happy? That's amazing that you did that. You know, I'm sorry, but it just didn't complete me as a person. So then, you know, I bounced around, went to other war zones as a contractor. And then, you know, once I realized, you know, that was even worse, actually. You know, that was, you know, it wasn't delivering it wasn't making me, it wasn't fulfilling me whatsoever. And I stumbled across helping rescuing those kids in Thailand. And that was phenomenal. What that gave me changed my life. You know, it was an epiphany. And the fact was, it was helping other people. Take the kids out of the equation. Helping anybody is such an amazing gift. Okay. And what you get from that is unbelievable fulfillment. And it makes sense, doesn't it, in the whole scheme of things, when it comes to human evolution and everything, helping mankind, or you know, helping our species to survive should feel good and make you want to do more of it. Because as far as the species, you know, the species wants to you know, further evolve, so it makes sense that helping other people should feel good. But for me, and especially in this world now as well, you know, everyone is fighting for all the Instagram followers. Everyone's fighting for, you know, to be the best at work, to have the best car, to you know, to keep up with the Joneses, all that kind of stuff. Everyone is losing that ability to help others, you know, and we're missing out. People that don't see the worth in that are missing out. And once you start investing in other people, and it doesn't have to have any kind of obvious benefit to you. It's not like, well, I'll help that person because I'm going to get that. It's just the fact of helping other people makes you feel whole. It makes you feel amazing. And since, you know, that unfortunately, that work in Thailand, rescuing the kids from prostitution and slavery, it ended abruptly. But it had already given me that gift. And that's why I then took that. Everything I did there was the reason for me creating, that helped me to find my purpose. And I wanted to do a job, have a job, create something that was in line with my purpose. And that's why I started my company called Breakpoint. You know, Breakpoint's mission statement is to create a globally identified brand recognized for the positive growth and development of others. And that's what we do, you know, and that I kind of almost feel selfish, you know, because I feel that when you help people, it gives you so much back. Once you start doing it and start doing it continually, once you get that feedback, you know, you're getting emails from people saying, you've changed my life. You know, I got so many messages from my last book, Breakpoint, just through reading that. People are like, you've changed my life. You've given me the inspiration I need. You've helped me, you know, there's no end of messages. And that to me is better than any paycheck.
When you eventually were in those situations, so you mentioned on your first stop, I think you said it was in Belize, a friend of yours or died, and you said in the book, "This is my reality now." What did that do to your mentality, and was there any shift in mentality when you realized the severity and the reality of it all?
Yeah, it's very easy to become complacent, you know. So I went through training as a young paratrooper, and all my instructors who I looked up to were amazing people, legends. They'd all been to war, they'd done, and I'd heard all the stories, and not from them, from it indirectly. You generate a good story about somebody indirectly. If he's telling it himself, probably bullshit. But so I met real great people, and I was fortunate enough to go straight through depot the first time, the training, and also to come out the other end as the champion recruit. So I kind of felt I'm a bit of Jack the Lad again. I kind of got a little bit complacent. I know it all now. I've done it all. I've been taught by the best. I am the best. I'd never really been in conflict. I'd never really seen anything before. I'd seen dead people before, you know, people dying of cancer or road traffic accidents, that sort of stuff. That's part of growing up. But I'd never really seen the spoils of conflict or war and somebody being killed directly or indirectly. So when this incident happened in Belize, and bearing in mind, this guy that we're talking about, Benny, God bless him, was the first person we'd met from after training, a person of being in battalion, which we knew we were different. It's different once you're in battalion. And he was a real nice guy. He really took time, again, one of those sort of mentors of life who took time with us as new guys, explained to us how it's all going to happen, what to look out for, what to be aware of, and what to sort of do and say for the first part of your career, and just to keep it on the right track. Lovely, lovely guy. So I met him, then disappeared, went on this trip to Belize, and it wasn't an operational tour as such. We had stuff going on. We were carrying live rounds, and there was incidents happening on the border. So it wasn't a place where we're classed as a conflict like today, but it was real. And I got out there. I'd already been out there 2 or 3 months. I'd been on patrols in the jungle now. I was getting confident. I was getting a little bit cocky, if I'm honest, starting to fit in with the guys. So again, I got complacent. I thought I knew it all. And then out of the blue, this incident happened. You know, I watched the helicopter. I heard the noises and wondered what it was all about. Watched the helicopter come in, land. And as soon as I saw the body come off, I recognized it. It was a real grounding. It just really kind of put me on my ass and said, now you need to realize this is the job you're in. This is the game you're in. That could be you. One thing goes wrong, you get too complacent. I'm not to say Benny got complacent. He was in an unfortunate, situation, but so it was a grounding, and it reset me again. It recalibrated me back to every day's a school day. You're here to learn, listen, learn, and use those lessons that you have learned going forward. And that's what it did to me. So it was. If there's a positive thing to come out of that, that was it. For probably not just me, for a lot of younger people as well.
On to the topic of excellence, what would you say the key things to sort of hone in on and focus on? Because I think, especially in self-help lately, everyone's on this pursuit for excellence. It's all about this pursuit of excellence. What do you think the key things to focus on if you're one of those people on that pursuit?
Yeah, I guess it's important to have some sort of markers. I'm not a massive fan of them, but every kind of system seems to work where it's got some sort of marker or goal to work to. And I think it's important to understand, right? It's like you use the term excellence, but it's one of those things that you never really achieve, or you shouldn't really achieve. I think the moment that you think that you've achieved it and you are excellent in anything is, probably the biggest mess up that you'll ever make. I think I mentioned it in the book. It's like always being that white belt, always just having that beginner's kind of thirst or that beginner's curiosity. And you can coin it a search for excellence, but it is that never-ending journey of just trying to, be clear, seek more knowledge, gain more skills, be more healthy, be around more radiators.
And you say a dream without a goal is merely an illusion. What are some of the reasons, or the typical reasons, why goals tend to fail then? What are people doing wrong?
Right, well, there's a long list of things what people are doing wrong. But first of all, ask anyone that's listening here who made a New Year's resolution of X, Y, Z that I'm going to change the way I am, I'm going to get a new job, I'm going to do that. 2 weeks later, it's all fallen apart. And the reason for that is simple. First of all, a lot of the time, people are inventing goals or creating a goal that's not really for them. They're doing it because the person they're with, they know that they'd appreciate it if they made those changes. So unless you're passionate about the goal, this is one of the most important ones. Unless you're passionate about that goal, if it's for someone else, you won't achieve it because you need to be passionate about it. Let's talk about goals here, because I think this is really important, because this is as simple as how goals are, right? If you don't have a goal, your current circumstances you become a victim of your circumstances. So when something happens, when something goes wrong, you become so embedded in that situation that you can't get out of it. You're just stuck in that moment. You become a victim of your circumstances. Okay, let me give you an example, right? You see a freezing cold lake in the middle of winter, and I say to you, go and jump in that. What are you going to say?
No.
No. Right. Imagine this scenario. You look into the freezing lake. There's the person you love drowning in the middle. Do you think you give a shit about how cold it is?
No.
Because your goal overwhelms your circumstances. And that is what pulls you through the discomfort. All right. So that gives you an example. If you haven't got that goal that overwhelms your current circumstances, you get caught in your circumstances and you become a victim of your circumstances. You know, always having a goal and always having something that will pull you through that discomfort is so important. So important.
It's that thing about having a, they call it having a why. And there's loads of examples. I mean, one of the most famous examples being Buster Douglas when he fought Mike Tyson, and his mother passed away, and he promised that he was going to be the champ. He was going to beat Mike Tyson, and I think the bookmakers give him something like 36-1 to win, and he attributes the fact that he won that fight simply because his why was greater than his opponent.
Exactly, 100%. 100%. And the thing is, if you don't have anything like that, if you don't have something that pulls you through that, you just get lost in your circumstances. That's why so many people, you find a lot of people, when they haven't got any big dreams or aspirations, they become so focused and so micromanagers on the circumstances. And it's a lot, for military, that's what a lot, I call it, in my last book, I called it Peace in War. It's just like, you used to come back and people complaining about, the trees growing over the fence, the neighbours parked across our drive, all that sort of really small stuff. And you think, God, how pathetic it is. It's all that white noise. And that's why going to war, your why is so massive. It doesn't have time for that little small talk bit in the middle that people get caught up on. So really, it's always in your life, you've got to have a why. Why are you doing it? There might be people watching this. They're probably not watching this if they are that way inclined, but there might be people watching this that go, well, I'm happy. And that's fine. If you're happy with life and that's you're content with everything, that's fine. But if you're the type of person, I know I am, when I'm not doing things that align with who I want to be and my happiness and my fulfillment, and I don't actually think I'll ever completely get there, it'll just keep me driving forward to a better me. But to stop that internal conflict, I need to put a process into play. If I don't put a process into play, and this comes back to your goals, the reason people don't achieve their goals is the fact that they don't put a process into play and they leave it as an emotion. If you leave it as an emotion, your brain will talk you out of doing things very quickly. If I know, look, right, I want to be this person, down the track, I want to be a better me. And to do that, I put all these markers in the way that I've got to achieve these milestones of growth. Now, I might not want to achieve them, or I might not want to execute that because it's a level of discomfort and it doesn't really appeal to me. But if it aligns with my goal, I just know that I've got to follow the process, because if I don't follow the process, it's just an illusion. And that's all it simply is. We're just lost in the illusion of who we want to be. And that creates discomfort, unhappiness. And I can tell you now, if you're going through that all the way through your life, you'd be on your deathbed thinking, what was that all about?
What makes a life worth living?
Yeah. It's certainly not rank. It's certainly not money. It's certainly not any of those things. I think it is the satisfaction that you did your best, that you contributed in a way that was not about you. It was about others. It was about maybe society writ large, but many of us don't have a chance to shape society. We have a chance to shape maybe our families, maybe one person. And if you accept the idea that life ends at death and there's not an afterlife or heaven or anything like that, you could say, well, why would it matter? Why don't I just do whatever feels best in the moment? Because when it's over, it's over. But I don't think that's the way we think, and I don't think that's the way we should think, because if during your life you are holding yourself to a standard, not just after death, if there's that moment of judgment, but during your life you feel better about it. You feel like you're doing it for a reason, for a purpose, with a set of rules. Everything else is eminently selfish. And I don't think we were raised to be selfish entirely. In fact, I think there's this terrific need inside human beings to not be selfish. And our society hasn't been pulling at that enough in the last 20, 30 years, as I think we should and could.
But for you, what makes a life worth living?
So many reasons. Like, I'm grateful for like the smallest of things to the largest of things. Yeah, like so many things, Lewis. Just like getting up in the morning and going for a walk. Like, I enjoy that.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, do you know what? Like, I'm a person that needs to do things, and if I'm doing things that I'm engaged in, then I'm happy. Like, I can't just sit on the sofa and watch TV. Like, that's when I'm unhappy and feel like unfulfilled. So as long as I'm engaged in things that I'm creating and, you know, they're developing and I can see progress in them, then I'm a happy man.
If you were given an opportunity to just pass on one message to every person in the world, something you'd want them to learn, what would your message to them be?
Treat people the way you want to be treated and never look down on anybody. You know, you don't know what they're going through. You don't know what day they've had. You don't know why they're acting the way. So just be patient, think, understand before you start making criticisms and decisions. So don't look down on anybody and treat everybody like the way you want to be treated.